Hey guys, welcome to Stellaris. This is a grand strategy game just recently published by Paradox Development Studios. They've been putting out a lot of good games recently, and I went ahead and picked this one up because I've been looking for a space civilization game for a while, and I've been pretty pleased with this one. So I figured I would go ahead and give everyone a quick taste of what it would be like, or maybe a long taste depending on how long you want to stick around. So Stellaris is a game kind of like Civilization. It has a large narrative element, so there are quite a few narrative events that happen over time, and the personalities of the AI are pretty significant. And the personality of your own empire can actually be fairly significant as well. So I went ahead and made a race that I thought might be kind of fun to give a try here, and I'm going to go ahead and use this to kind of describe some of the qualities of a race in this game. So, oops, wrong spot. So, like a lot of these games, actually, not like, unlike Civilization, this game, you get to do a lot of character definition. We get to pick their appearance, the name, their traits, what kind of government system they're going to have, what kind of ethics they're going to have, and a couple other technical things. It's really important for players when they're having fun. You want to have a game that's balanced and designed, but you also want to play a game, especially a single-player game, that tells a really good story, and that's absolutely what Stellaris is trying to do. And they're going to do that largely through this ethics system, which I'm going to get to in just a second. I actually designed this race starting with the government ethics and also the traits, and then I kind of went in and filled in the idea of a tortoise race. So I went with the idea of this kind of slow, venerable, long-lasting, peaceful, interested in exploring the universe, or galaxy, kind of race. But we have a lot of options here for the types of races we want. This is just images. What do you want your race to look like? So we've got humans, we've got a lot of other mammals, we've got the cats, we've got this weird bat thing, we've got platypuses, sloths, a boar race. Oh, I want to play a boar race. That sounds awesome. We've got various reptiles. Wow, look at these guys. They look awesome. The frog race. Whatever this guy is. We've got bird races. It seems pretty sensible that birds would make it into the stars. This guy's like missing an eye, or he's just a cyclops. We've got these arthropods. They're like, oh, this guy, he's like a clam. Wow. Or a bug of some kind. Various bug types. Let's check out that guy. He's awesome. We've got the arthropods, which are like, the clams. And they're in spacesuits. That makes sense. And then we've also got the funguses. The mushroom race. We're going to go with turtle this time. And I call them the tortoise species. Tortoises, I don't know if that's actually correct, and the tortisian, quality. They have tortisian things. I went with a molluscoid naming theme for my ships, planets, fleets, and leaders. This is basically just going to influence what kind of names they're going to receive when they're randomly generated. Ooh, you can put nice little prefixes on them. That's cool. So for the traits, you essentially start with a limited number of points, and you can increase the number of positive qualities available to you, or the higher caliber of positive qualities, if you take negative qualities. So we can see I have a base of 2, and I took a 5-point positive quality, Venerable. And this just simply says leader lifespan plus 90 years. So this race grows extremely old. But they do it at the cost of being sedentary. They do not like moving around or migrating. They are slow learners. The leaders develop skills much more slowly. And finally, they're slow breeders as well, so they take a lot longer to grow. And their ruler, I just randomly chose Gethmar, the president. He doesn't have an heir, so it doesn't matter, and you can adjust their colors and whatnot. This is randomly generated. For my, I just picked a random starting world name and star name. Um, and I chose to start on an ocean world. I could also go for like a desert, but what's important to know about this is that this is like a wheel. The planetoids that I'm ocean right now that are adjacent to you are the ones you're going to have the easiest time inhabiting. So this race has an ocean preference. They have a much easier time living on ocean worlds. They have a decent amount of time living on continental and Arctic planets, and they have a pretty difficult time living on tropical and tundra planets. And then finally, on the opposite end, we have desert and arid, which I have no bonuses towards habitability, so they're going to have a really hard time living on those types of planets. Even though, you know, tortoises, deserts, I know. You get different types of tortoises, right? Maybe it's more appropriate that I'm, like, somewhere in between, like, I don't know, maybe continental, and then I'm a little bit closer to desert. Or maybe even a tropical world. Tortoises aren't really tropical, are they? I don't know. Maybe we'll go for continental. I like ocean, though. Ocean's kind of fun. We're going to stick with that. This just determines what your cities are going to look like, the images of your cities. We're going for, like, fungoids. They look like mushrooms. Arthropoids, they look like bug shells, I guess. Avians, they're all nice and spindly. Mammals, they're just, you know, like our cities are. And then we've also got the mollusks, which they're shaped like shells, which is great fun. Okay, so something that's a really, really big part of this game that basically determines a lot of your identity is this government and ethics system. So we essentially have 3 different points, and we have 16 different qualities, 8 of which are basically enhanced versions of the other 8. So these are all the fanatical versions of these innermost spheres here. The ones that are on opposite sides are mutually exclusive, so collectivist and individualist are mutually exclusive. I cannot be both, it makes no sense. So militarist opposes pacifist, xenophobe opposes xenophile, and materialist opposes spiritualist. And these are really going to influence not only how you end up playing your race and what kind of government choices you're going to have available, but also how other races react to you, and even some diplomatic options that you're going to have available to you in the game. So, as you might expect, militarist they're happy when they're at war, but people trust them less. If you're at peace, people are more likely to trust you, and they're much happier when they're at peace, and they're actually sad when they are at war. Individualist is more capitalist. They have an easier time generating credits, but they really do not tolerate slavery. Especially if you're fanatic, they absolutely do not tolerate slavery. And on the opposite end, you have collectivists, where it's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. They have no problem taking slaves, and they consume less food because they acknowledge that it's important that the whole survives. We also have xenophobe and xenophile. So, if you're a xenophobe, you have an easier time taking alien slaves. And if you're a xenophile, you have a much easier time doing diplomatic actions with your diplomatic resources. And then finally we have spiritualist, which has smaller ethical divergence among the people in your race, primarily. And then also you have the materialist, which is the opposite, and they don't really care about that at all. They care about science and technology and not being ruled by some kind of unknown, spiritual drive. So I really like spiritualist for a turtle race. I really do enjoy individualist, and I also enjoy xenophile. So those are the 3 I chose for this race. I could also go for massive xenophilia, so that I just love all aliens. But I'm not gonna do that. Oh, massive bonus to energy credits. Massively capitalistic. And if you go for fanatic spiritualist, massive growth time reduction as well. So it's all about making babies. I'm actually not going to go with fanatical, although it is really fun, and I recommend for people also to try the pacifist and militarist. It makes it a little bit easier to kind of imagine, what the race's agenda is. So normally you have access to these 3 government types: the despotic empire, the plutocratic oligarchy, which is like a wealthy elite controls the government, and then we also have just the pure indirect democracy where we vote for leaders quite often. In fact, all of these vote for their leaders often. All of these vote for their leaders about every 50 years, and all of these have leaders for a lifetime, which would be kind of cool, you know, with a tortoise living for so long, their leader gets to live for 200 years. And then what influences which one of these you can take is influenced by your ethical system. So we have the options to increase our leader's lifespan even more with a theocratic oligarchy so that he lives forever. Plutocratic oligarchy basically has booster resources. So they are all about acquiring wealth. And then the indirect democracy is all about having a lot of leaders to choose from, and they vote for a new leader every 10 years. I like this idea of having a lot of leaders. You know, they're the turtles, they live for a long time, and they give everybody a chance at taking that leadership role. And we're going to call it the Tortoise Empire, the Tortesian, you know, homeworld, whatever. I think this is kind of cool. It's kind of like, you know, turtley themed, whatever. There's a lot of different options here, though. We have a million things we can go through here. Really, whatever suits your boat. It's probably one of the last things you're going to choose. So we have two pretty technical choices left. There are basically three major weapon types in the game. There are missile weapons, there are projectile weapons, and there are energy weapons. And you're going to start with these, and you're going to be able to improve upon these or diverge into the other. You're not limited to whatever one you choose, but they're definitely going to determine the starting level of whatever it is. So I figured it makes probably the most sense that turtles would go for missiles, you know, because they're like long range, you know, they like to sit back, kind of hang out. And the second thing is their FTL method. I guess I should say what these do. Just quick note is energy weapons are very good against armor. Projectile weapons are very good against shields. These are like ballistics, and it's just mostly because they can chew through them very quickly. Energy shields are obviously pretty good against energy weapons. And then finally, missile weapons are essentially unavoidable, but can be countered by point defense weapons. So lasers that shoot the missiles down, which is you get later. And so finally we have our faster than light method that our race is going to start with. Warp travel is the most simple. You essentially can warp to any system that is in range with a ship. As you get more powerful drives, they can go further distances. And you basically spend a short time building up a subspace bubble, and then you just you fly really fast through space to the place you're trying to go, and then when you get there, you have a cooldown you have to suffer, depending on how far you went. Wormholes essentially are you use a wormhole generator in your system, and you can use it to travel to any system that's within range by developing a teleportation tunnel, essentially, between those two locations. And so you can travel to or from a wormhole station area, and then you would need to create multiple wormhole stations if you wanted to travel multiple distances. It's a little bit more complicated, but it's not too bad. And then finally we have hyperspace, which allows you to travel very quickly, but you must follow specific routes, putting a lot more value on specific planets, and not giving you a lot of versatility on maybe going to places really quickly. Like warp travel can allow you to just jump to the planet you want to go to, or the fastest possible route. Hyperspace, you kind of maybe have some less optimal routes. We're going to go for wormhole travel because that seems pretty tortoisey. And then finally, we want to go for our ship appearance. We have 6 different styles of ships that we can start with. I've gone with a molluscoid because I think it looks really cool. But these are basically going to determine what all of our ships and bases look like. Cool, and that's it. That's the tortoise race. So I'm going to make another video now that I'm mostly just done with this, and we'll just jump right into the game and the mechanics. And we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you there.